Right, hello, welcome back to the Golden Sky. It is the 7th of August 2025. I'm Tom. Welcome back again to another video here. And today's video is going to be something a little bit different. Today we're going to look at one positive thing for every single club in the Premier League ahead of the 25-26 Premier League season starting next Friday. Thought we'd touch on every team. So if there's any fans of other teams watching, I'll talk about your club at least for a second in this video. But yes, that's what we're going to do today. Before we get into that, guys, if you are new here or you enjoyed the video or you just feel like giving it a like, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more season preview stuff coming out. And then the season starts, we'll be kicking it into gear and looking at some of the games there. Drop a comment and tell me if you enjoyed the video as well. But with all that said, should we just get straight on ahead into things? I will say, just before we start again, I have said this a few times and he's never made an appearance, but my dog is somewhere in the background. So if you see him, you see him. There we go. He's roaming around on the bed. Okay. So we'll go alphabetically here, which is fair. We're not prioritising anybody, so if you're a Wolves fan, I'm sorry, you're going to have to skip to the end. But please don't skip to the end. Watch the video, because it's good for me. And also you might enjoy. But yes, we'll start with Arsenal. So get those Arsenal fans excited for the new season. What's going to be positive? Well, I think it's clear for Arsenal. They have a striker. That's the clear positivity for Arsenal this season. They have a striker. All this talk over the last few years of them falling short, they've come second 3 times in a row, and a lot of that talk has been the reason why is because they've not had a striker, they've not had a focal point, someone to finish chances that they create. In this video, I'm going to try really hard not to slander anybody. Arsenal, United, City, all these teams, like, we're not going to say anything bad. It's about positivity today. So Victor Gyökeres for Arsenal, signed from Sporting Lisbon, scored a bucket load of goals over there, nearly 100 goals in 2 seasons. Certainly banged them in over in Portugal. So can it translate to the Premier League? Well, the Arsenal fans would hope so, and that's something that they can be positive about and hopeful about. I mean, like, he's a player who loves to get on the end of balls in behind. Got a really powerful shot, quite quick. So certainly looks like the type of striker Arsenal fans have been wanting. They're very excited, I'm sure. And I think if you are an Arsenal fan, you've got to be thinking, is this the final piece of the puzzle to put together an actual title winning season rather than just a title challenging season? As they've had a few years in the past, because now you've got Saka and Martinelli out on the wings. They've also got Noni Madueke, who they've signed out there too, Declan Rice, Zubamendi in the middle. He could have also been a positive thing for Arsenal. Maybe we'll get into a few positives for some clubs. Zubamendi has got to be a signing that's mentioned because Liverpool wanted him last year. That's no secret. He didn't come. He ends up at Arsenal this year. You've got to be excited about that if you're an Arsenal fan. Someone to help dictate the tempo, like Thomas Partey did last year. But the less said about him, the better. So, yeah, and then the defence, is the defence. I guess you can also be positive as an Arsenal fan that you're going to get loads more corners to watch this season. So, yes, corners, always fun. But Gyökeres is the main positive point, I believe, this season for Arsenal. How many goals do we think he'll score in the league this year? I'm going to make a prediction and say I think he'll score 13 goals in the Prem this season. Maybe we'll revisit this at the end of the season and see how many things were actually positive and how many weren't, and put my reputation on the line. That reputation I don't have. Okay, so right, we'll move on from Arsenal then. Quite an easy one, really. Gyökeres and Zubamendi and just their general team being very good still. Move to Villa. Aston Villa are a bit of a trickier one, seeing as they haven't done a lot really in the transfer market, really at all. Signed one player, and it's not a player that I would say is noteworthy enough to be the positive thing about Villa this season. But what is positive is that Villa this year are in the Europa League, and you might think, well, they were in the Champions League last year. That's a downgrade. I mean, yes, it is technically, but Villa made a good account of themselves in the Champions League. They pushed PSG all the way, who went on to win it, and I think that shows they have a real chance of winning the Europa League this year. And I think that's the positive thing for Villa. That push for the Europa League with Unai Emery in charge. We know how good he is at winning that competition. It's like he has this weird affinity to it. Won it a bunch of times, I think four times maybe now. So big chance for Villa to win a European trophy this year, and that's something you've got to be positive about if you're a Villa fan. You know, the squad, they haven't really lost many players. They lost Rashford from being on loan. Asensio as well, I think, has gone back. I don't know if they've renewed him yet. I don't think they have, or signed him. So they lost a few of those loanees that they added in to push in the Champions League last year. And I still think they've got work to do in the market, but like I said, we're going to try and be positive. And I think they can make a real good go at the Europa League. We saw United last year get to the final with Spurs, so two English clubs. There's no reason for me why Villa can't be there as well. So if you're a Villa fan, you've got to be optimistic, and you've got to be looking forward to that. Because they can make some real noise in Europe this year. Okay, we'll move on then to Bournemouth. So another tricky one, really. They have. Look, I said I'm going to be positive, but it feels necessary to mention in the context when we're talking about Bournemouth is they've lost a lot of their defensive line. They've lost a lot of key players. Howson's gone. Obviously, Kirk's gone. It looks like Zabani's going, and Kepa, who was the goalkeeper last year, has gone. One positive thing is that they've replaced Kepa with another former Chelsea goalkeeper, Petrovic, who looked to me when he played for Chelsea a couple of years ago in the Prem like a pretty solid keeper, quite a young keeper. So that's definitely a positive thing for Bournemouth. And the main thing I thought, though, the positive, how many times am I going to say positive this video? The main thing I'd be optimistic about if I was a Bournemouth fan is that they still have Iraola as manager. I think this guy's a really top manager, and whilst he's there, I wouldn't be too worried that anything catastrophic could happen at Bournemouth. So definitely a positive that despite the fact they've sold a lot of players and haven't really signed a lot yet, they've signed the goalkeeper and the left back Truffert to replace Kirkes. They probably still will sign a few more. They've still got Semenyo, they've still got Cliver, they've still got all the players in the midfield that impressed last year, especially when they had that really good run. So as long as Iraola's still there, I think he's a really top coach, top manager. I think he's probably destined to move on to a club higher than Bournemouth eventually. But like I said, at the start of this season, he's still there. So you've got to think the fact that they've lost players is kind of negated. He sets them up really well. They attack really fluidly. He improves players. We've seen that with the youngsters that he's improved. You think of Howson, Kirkes. So you've got to be positive about who else can he improve now. And the fact that he's still there is definitely a plus. Okay, we'll move on from Bournemouth because, like I said, it's a little tricky over there on the south coast. But we'll go to the capital and we'll go to Brentford. So again, Brentford, a lot of people actually quite low on Brentford. I've seen talking about the upcoming season. I think that's natural. They've also lost players similar to Bournemouth, but not only have they lost players, actually they've lost their manager too. But I actually see that as my positive for Brentford. They have an opportunity here to go with a whole new approach. Keith Andrews has been appointed manager of Brentford. He was a set piece coach with Brentford before, so big promotion. He was manager of MK Dons, I think, or applied for MK Dons or something, and he ended up at Brentford in the Prem. So I say, whilst it's a risk, I think it's positive for Brentford that they've got this sort of fresh, new, exciting manager. And Thomas Frank's a great manager, but this could be a bit of a new era at Brentford. They've also signed a player called Anthony Malambo, who I think is a really good young talent. He's sort of a attacking midfielder, Dutch player. They signed him from the Eredivisie. I think he was playing for Feyenoord. Really talented youngster. I think he could do really well for them this year. They've obviously got spots in those attacking areas now that Mbermo's gone, and likely Visser is going to leave as well. So maybe they'll do more to replace. Another positive they've got is Igor Thiago is fit, I believe. They signed him last year to replace Ivan Toney, and he got injured. Basically, I think he had 2 injuries, one at the very start of the season and one in the middle when he returned. He only played about 6 games. So that's a positive that your striker you signed, who scored a load of goals in the Belgian league the season before he came to Brentford, is back. So hopefully he gets fit and firing for them. And another thing is they have become apparently Liverpool version 2. Think of the players they have now, and including some of their signings this year. They have Kelleher in the goal. That's a really, really good signing. As a Liverpool fan, we've watched Kelleher a lot. We know the quality and the ability that he has. So I think that's going to be really big for them. Really good on the ball, kicks it with both feet, good shot stopper, just reliable. The only time he's really ever made a mistake with Liverpool was the Newcastle game last year when he didn't catch the ball when he should have. He just left it. And he's played a lot for us in big games too, so I think that's a real positive. They've also got Jordan Henderson signed, former Liverpool captain, of course. Had a bit of experience to the team. They lost Norgard, so their captain kind of lost, so replacing that leadership. They've also got Sepp van den Berg. They've got Fabio Carvalho. I might be missing 1 or 2, but that's 4 former Liverpool players there. So if you're trying to replicate Liverpool, never a bad sign on this channel. So definitely a few positives there for Brentford, despite the fact people are low on them. I think they could be an exciting team if Keith Andrews gets things right and some of their players hit the ground running like Malambo. So we'll move past Brentford then, and we'll go to Brighton. Lots of B's here in the Prem, isn't there? But Brighton, I mean, Brighton have been active in the market. They've signed a few players. I won't claim to know everything about the 18-year-old Greek striker they've signed. I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. Maybe he's good. I don't know. They've signed a few other youngsters. They've signed Bushagli, who's an experienced centre back, so a little bit different maybe from some of the young players they've signed. But the main, I think, kind of pick of the bunch is Maxime de Kuiper. So this guy is a Belgian left back. I think he can play right back as well. Basically looks like a real talent, and it's no surprise really at Brighton have snapped him up. So they've obviously they sold Estepinian. They've they signed Barco a few years back, and he's now left the club as well, a young left back. So there's an opportunity there for de Kuiper to really claim his position as his own. So I think having him, and perhaps they get Kadioglu back on the other side, on the other fullback position, whichever way they decide to play it, because Kadioglu also can play both fullback roles. He's 2-footed. He's got a great goal at Anfield, if anyone remembers. He got injured last year and missed a lot of the season. So I think the message I am trying to convey for Brighton is that really the positive thing to watch is which one of their signings or which one of their players will be next sold for 100 million. It's also Fabian Herzl's second season, so very exciting, promising manager, young manager, still very young. So it'd be really exciting to see how he gets on this second season, with a bit more experience of how the Premier League works. I think it's just interesting to watch Brighton every year and sort of try and predict which one of their players is going to be the next big one. They're still at the minute told of Baleba, despite United interest. So that's a positive. You know, they've got the Kuiper in, Kadioglu back from injury, and they've signed a bunch of new young players, who one of which might be £100 million worth of a player in a few years. So that is Brighton. All right, the first of our new promoted clubs is next, and a team who we've seen a lot in the Premier League and become a bit of a yo-yo club over the last few years. But we have Burnley. So Burnley back from the Championship, where they had a pretty historic defensive season. Um, I don't think they'll have a historic defensive season in the Premier League, but I think a positive that you can take if you're a Burnley fan going into this season, and I don't mean any disrespect to, well, I don't disrespect anyone here. I shouldn't even preface that by saying that, but when they last came up and they had company, I feel like the style they were ready to play just pretty much signed, sealed, delivered their relegation on day dot. The fact last season they were so strong in the Championship defensively, perhaps that translates better to the Premier League if they can build on sort of being a tight defensive team, maybe nick a few games 1-0, get some 0-0s, 1-1s, pick up points maybe where under company they were getting beat convincingly because they were playing such an expansive attacking play out from the back style of football. Not to say that they're hoof the ball long now, but that's the way they played last season in the Championship. You could say though that the main positive thing about Burnley is they've made an absolute shed load of signings. I think it's 12 signings they've made. Some of them were on loan there last season, but I'll give you a few of my favourite ones that they've signed. So Chukwu is the most expensive one. They've signed him from Chelsea. Chelsea signed this guy, I think 2 years ago. I reckon he played a couple games for Chelsea. He was on loan at Southampton at the end of last season. He's a defensive midfielder, young player, and Chelsea sold him on. See you later. That's the Chelsea model, and Burnley have snapped him up, and I think he could be quite decent for them. They managed to sign Marcus Edwards, so he was on loan at Burnley latter end of last season. Talented player, scored a lot of goals. Well, not a lot of goals, but scored a few goals in Europe for Sporting Lisbon. Very talented winger. Used to be at Spurs, so you got to hope. I feel like promoted clubs always have to hope on sort of a talisman like this to sort of keep them up if they're going to be successful. Kind of think of Rafinha with Leeds when he signed. The boost they give when teams first come up to the league. They've signed Axel Tuanzebe at centre back, so further bolstering their defence, and they've also signed Kyle Walker on a free. So heading back to England, I mean, he's quite old now, Kyle Walker, and he's certainly past his best, but it's only going to strengthen them defensively to have these options. Like Walker is still probably fast, unless he's like died his pace this season, this summer, and he can't run anymore. So Walker, Tuanzebe, all these new signings, they've signed loads more who I don't know a lot about, but you got to be positive about that if you're a Burnley fan. So yes. We'll move past Burnley. I'll move on to a team with a lot of different ambitions this season. That is Chelsea. Now, I think for Chelsea, the positive thing is that they've got I don't want to say first ever because teams have won it before in the past, but under the new format, they've got the first ever Club World Cup bounce, ? Is there going to be a bounce from winning the Club World Cup? I mean, it certainly would give them some confidence, you've got to believe, going into the season. They beat PSG really convincingly in the final. So it's definitely positive if you're a Chelsea fan right now. They've also spent about £250 million on a whole bunch of signings again. Chelsea just continue to spend endless amounts of money, and a lot of these are exciting young players, so you've got to be positive about it. João Pedro looks, or at least looked in his early Chelsea career in the Club World Cup, really good. They've signed Jamie Gittins from Dortmund, a young winger. Looks like an exciting player, English guy. So exciting to see how he gets on. They've signed Hato from Ajax, a really promising young defender, really promising player. Colwell's actually injured as well, I think, so he might even have more opportunity than he would have assumed when he signed about a week ago. So really promising player. They've signed Liam Delap as well, who had a good season with Ipswich last year. So they've got a lot of these players. Another positive you've got to pick out, and again, it's more signings for Chelsea, but they now have Estevao coming over from Palmeiras. So they signed him last season. He's now over. one of the most exciting talents in Brazil. Last season he was great in the Brazilian league called the Serie A. Um, he looks like he probably will play in Chelsea's first team this season. So that's exciting and something you've got to be looking forward to as a Chelsea fan. And the same sort of similar thing with Kendry Pires. I think I'm saying that right. I just call him Kendry. Meant to be a really, really big talent. Don't know if he'll play as much as Estevao this season, but all these youngsters, Chelsea have got to start putting together actual title challenges because they've spent so much money. They have a really solid team now. So lots of positives for Chelsea going into the new season. They've had a good summer, to be honest. And they're being positive today, so no, we try not to badmouth these horrible clubs. Whoops. Okay. Crystal Palace then. This one's sort of backhanded, I'll be honest, guys. They haven't done a lot on the transfer market, so there's nothing really you can say there. Unless you love Borna Sosa. Maybe you do. But the positive thing I've said for Palace is they have European football this season. I believe they're still in appeal of whether they'd be playing Europa League or Conference League based on the whole Lyon Nottingham Forest controversy. But they have European football. They do have it. And that is exciting as a Palace fan. Even if they've not been able to make any signings yet, I feel like they do tend to do their business later in the window. Although they have signed a goalkeeper and a left back, but nothing crazy. Another positive is that at the time of recording, they still have Eze, which is massive for Palace. They also still have Gehi. I'm not as confident Gehi will stay. Liverpool sniffing around. I think Newcastle sniffing around as well. But they still have their big players. So if they do keep hold of them and end up in Europe, maybe the Europa League, but at the minute the Conference League, can they actually do all right in that? Because that'd be huge for Palace, and it'd be great for their fans as well to watch them play in Europe after so many seasons in mid-table in the Prem. So lots to be positive about as a Palace fan. Maybe a little backhanded because they should have been in the Europa League after winning the FA Cup, and it might feel like a bit of a downer to end up in the Conference League if that's how it goes. But you didn't have a lot of other options, Palace. So there we go. Now we'll move on to Everton, the other side of Merseyside. So the other club there, not my beloved Liverpool, the blue side. So Everton. To be honest, there's a lot to be excited about as an Everton fan this season. There actually is. The one I picked out is the Hill Dickinson Stadium, the new stadium, formerly known as Bramley-Moore Dock, which would have been an awesome stadium name, but they decided to change. I think that's got to be what you pick out as your most positive, exciting thing ahead of the new season, because it's so unique. No other club in the Prem has a brand new stadium built for them. It's in a really cool location. It should be a massive improvement on Goodison. Will the atmosphere be good in there? I would imagine so. So you've got to be really excited about that, and it's really positive for Everton. They've managed to go into that stadium, not only in the Prem still, but sort of stable and looking to build forward rather than just maintain just about survival. Because they have Moyes, you've got to be confident with Moyes that they're not going to be in danger. They've made some decent signings. They've still got Iliman Ndiaye, who was great last season. Maybe you can kick on even more this year. They've signed Tieno Barry up front, who looks like, to be honest, a really exciting player. Quite raw and definitely a little clunky. He reminds me a little bit of Nicholas Jackson. A little bit. I mean, like maybe he'll be slightly different to how Jackson's worked out in the Prem, but that's kind of what he reminds me of. Came from La Liga as well. So they've signed him. They've also signed Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall from Chelsea. I mean, another one Chelsea bought and sold within a year. Did he play any games in the Prem for them last year? I don't know. But for Everton, he's a solid player. I think that's a decent signing. So lots to be positive about as an Evertonian. If you are an Evertonian right now, shout out to my uncle. So there we go. we'll see you in the new stadium, and I'm actually really looking forward to that, and might even do a watch along. Are they even at home? I'm gonna quickly check this. This is bad podcasting of me here. But I think we're gonna do a watch along for when they play Leeds on the first day of their first game of the season on the Monday night. That's my plan currently. It is at Leeds. It is at Ellen Road, so it won't be at Bramley-Moore Dock or Hill Dickinson. But yeah, we'll be there for that. So that's positive as well. All right, then we'll move on to by far the hardest team to come up with a positive for this summer, and it is Fulham, which is really random. Like I don't have much connection to Fulham really, but basically Fulham have made no signings really. I think they bought one fella for 500 grand, and they've sold basically nobody. So a bit tricky really. So what I've picked out as a positive thing for Fulham is consistency. Is that a positive to be consistent? I think it was positive how Jimenez played last season for Fulham, sort of regained some of his form. It was great to see, and he's still there. So maybe there's that. Like Fulham were solid last season. They were solid. They probably will be solid again this year. But the fact they've done absolutely nothing just makes it difficult. We won't spend a long time talking about them, but maybe their consistency will help this year. That's how we'll phrase it. They've also got a new kit, like everyone else, obviously, but it's quite a cool one. I think it's white with the black Adidas trims. Looks kind of cool, so I'll give them that as a positive as well. Sorry to the Fulham fans out there, but there we go. If there's any Fulham fans watching this, comment below because I don't think there will be, but here we go. We'll move swiftly on and we'll go to Leeds. If anyone knows me personally, you know that I have a real soft spot for Leeds. I don't know why, really, how this started, but I really wanted them to come up. I kind of supported them in the Championship last year, so I want Leeds to do well this year. I obviously want them to win a lot of games, but not more than Liverpool win. But if they have a good season and stay up, I'll be very happy. And I think Leeds, the positive I picked out is that they have a new goalkeeper, which is honestly pretty big for Leeds because Meslier, like I don't know if Meslier, right? He's been around for a while. He's still very young, and he certainly is talented. But I think he quite often has shown he's got too many rash mistakes in him. And I think in the Premier League last time they were up, he really struggled, made a lot of mistakes, and it was tough for Leeds to cope with that. I think signing Lucas Perry from Lyon, he's 27, with decent experience, just a solid goalkeeper, someone who they can rely on in the goal. I think that will help them. That's something you've got to be positive about. This is assuming he actually starts and they don't roll with Meslier on day one, but I think he got dropped towards the end of last season as well when they were trying to push for that final few wins for promotion. And Carl Darlow was playing in net, so that's the positive for Leeds. They're back in the Premier League, obviously the big positive. I didn't want to make it too obvious because otherwise you could just say the same thing for Burnley, Leeds and Sunderland. So Leeds, new goalkeeper, well done to them. Now we'll move on to my favourite team, of course, the mighty Reds, Liverpool. This was easy, to be honest, and not just because they're my team and I'm feeling positive. I think the whole league can see how a Liverpool fan can be positive right now. I spent a lot of money this summer. Spent a lot of money, also recouped a lot of money too, but I think we'll focus on the positives, not outgoings as such. We'll focus on the incomings. The big positive has got to be Florian Wirtz. I mean, that's the real crown jewel of Liverpool's business so far. If they end up with Isak as well, if we end up with Isak, then that's the crown jewel on the crown jewel. But at the time of recording, we haven't signed him yet, so Wirtz is the pick of the bunch. That's not to say Kerkez, Frimpong, and Ekatike are not great signings either. They absolutely are, and I think all four of them could be the positive for Liverpool, but I think focusing on Wirtz, the fact they won the league last season so comfortably, we had it wrapped up with a lot of games to go. We kind of took the end of the season off, and to go out and improve the team with big signings like Verts, like the fullbacks, and get a striker, and maybe Isak as well. Although we won't say Isak yet because it's not happened. I think that's really positive and showed a good show of ambition from Liverpool to go and win it again, and that's what we want to see. Well, that's what I want to see. You might not want to see that if you support any of these other clubs, but that's what I want to see. So I won't spend too long on Liverpool because if you want to watch Liverpool stuff, I've got plenty of other videos talking about Liverpool. But yeah, Verts, I mean, the best signing of the summer from any club. One of the best players in the world. So there we go. We'll move on to City, Liverpool's rivals for the title in previous years. I think they'll absolutely be back up there this season. Well, they were still up there last year. I think they finished third in the end. And I think the positive this year for City is the return of Rodri. So he's back from his injury. Obviously missed basically the whole of last season with the ACL injury. So definitely a positive for City to have him back. Ballon d'Or winner, Rodri. So that's going to improve them a lot, provided he can get back to the level he was at before the injury. They've obviously made some signings as well. Cherki, Ait-Nouri, Reinders. I mean, these are all good, solid players, like quality players that City have signed. So I think Reinders especially is probably my favourite one of all the signings. Really, really good midfielder. One of the best in Serie A last year. Had a really good Euros as well for Netherlands before that. So, yes, I think City having Rodri is going to really catapult them right back to the top of the table where they've been for many, many years now. So, yes, that's what we'll say for Man City. I don't want to talk about them for too long because I don't like them. And a club I don't like even more is United. But we'll be positive through gritted teeth here, talking about United. And honestly, you've got to say it's pretty kind of jumps out at you. United's positive thing going forward into the new season. They have much improved their attack. Last season they didn't score enough goals. They also conceded too many. That's an issue they haven't corrected yet. But they have signed Cunha and Mbeumo at the time of recording. Sesko looks like he's going there as well. I think that's pretty much all sorted. So let's assume he signs in the coming days and they have a front three of Mbeumo, Sesko, and Cunha in Amarim's sort of two number 10s in the striker system. And you have Bruno Fernandes still behind them. That's much improved from when they started last season. United fans at work, one in particular, told me last season they started with Ten Hag and they had a front three of Anthony, Hoyland, and Garnacho. It's an improvement. Whether you like them or not, it's an improvement. So go positive about that if you're a United fan. But I'm gonna move right past that because we don't want to talk about United too much on here, especially not positively. But yes, to be fair to United, good business. I don't know how they've afforded it, but good signings. So Newcastle then, and I don't want to use a segue again here, but good signings into Newcastle doesn't quite mesh together at the minute, does it? I mean, they have Elanga. Can you say that's enough to be a positive? I think yes, he had a good season last year, and he might do good for Newcastle. But I think for me, the main positive for Newcastle is that they have Champions League. They have Champions League football. People seem to be forgetting with all the issues Newcastle have had over the summer. But they do actually have Champions League football, so they've got to be looking forward to that. Like I said, struggling a little bit to sign players at the minute. They've signed Ramsdale and Elanga. I believe that's it. We all know about the Isak stuff, but this is not a time to be negative. This is a time to be positive. They will probably end up with a striker as well, whoever that may be. So that's positive too. They'll actually replace Isak if he does leave, although I'm sure they probably don't see it that way, but you've got to give me something, guys. How will they get on in the Champions League? I don't know, and it may turn out to actually be a hindrance to them. But as of right now, going into the season, you have to be positive that they're in the Champions League. they've not been in it all that much. They were in it a couple of years back, but they're in it again here. So you have to be positive about that if you're a Newcastle fan, if nothing else really is going well for you right now. And a similar one next with Nottingham Forest. They have Europe as well. That's their positive, definitely. Currently, they're in the Europa League. They may go to the Conference League if Palace win their appeal and get back to the Europa League. So those two kind of in Europe limbo at the minute. Where will they end up? I don't know. Now, I much prefer Crystal Palace to Forest, so I hope Forest end up in the Conference League and Palace end up in the Europa League. But as of right now, they're in the Europa League, so that's their positive, definitely. If they end up in there, they had a really good season last year, so maybe they can do all right in Europe and maybe push on even further. They also have kept hold of Gibbs White. Obviously, would you say their most talented player? I think I would. I think he's probably their best player, and they've kept hold of him, signed him to a new deal. How much of that was his choice? It's another story, but they have kept hold of him, so that's positive too. And if they can take him with the new signings they've made, a couple of youngsters, I don't know a lot about them, but a couple of youngsters, I'm sure they can push in Europe and maybe have a good season in those competitions. So that's positive for Nottingham Forest, another club I don't really like. Okay, and we'll move on now to our third and final promoted team, which is Sunderland, back in the Premier League for the first time since the 2016-17 season, almost 10 years to see 9 seasons. Just, I don't know if that seems longer or shorter than what I would have guessed, to be honest. But it's been a while, so that's a huge positive for Sunderland to be back in the Prem. Obviously a big club, so quite happy to have them back, I think. Hopefully they are competitive and not like the last promoted teams who've gone straight back down again, unfortunately. But positive for Sunderland is they've spent over 100 million. They are going for it. They are going to stay up. They are going to try and stay up anyway. A couple signings they've made that I will pick out. They've signed Habib Diarra, who's a young midfielder from the French league. Really talented player. Looks really good, to be honest. I watched a little bit of him, not 4 games, but I watched a couple of clips of him last season actually playing. And I was looking at who Liverpool might be interested in midfield. Looks like a really good player, so that's a good signing for me. They've got Adingra from Brighton. I don't know necessarily how he'll work out in Sunderland, but looked talented for a while there at Brighton, didn't he? And sort of fell out of favour last season, so maybe he'll kick on again, pick his career back up at Sunderland. They've got Enzo Lefebvre, who was there last season in the Championship, and they've kept hold of him now on a permanent deal. So that's big for them. They've also signed a couple of experienced players, so Xhaka and Reynaldo. So Xhaka, obviously, we know Xhaka played for Arsenal for a bunch of years, won the league at Leverkusen, had a good couple of years there. Now comes to Sunderland to add some experience and sort of steel and grit to the midfield. So I think he'll be a good signing for them. And Reynaldo, fullback. I don't know if he'd be first choice, but has decent European pedigree. Played for Atletico Madrid. Played in the Champions League, so played some big games. And that might help Sunderland just about stay up. They certainly had a good window. So I prefer Sunderland's window to probably Burnley's and Leeds, to be honest. So they're trying with the parachute payments. So that's positive for Sunderland, definitely. All right, 3 to go, and one of these teams is Spurs. So I think the big positive for Spurs is Thomas Frank. Now, Ange won the trophy for Spurs finally after all this time and still got sacked. So these kind of link together. Ange winning the Europa League, meaning that Thomas Frank, the new manager, who's definitely a positive, gets to manage them in the Champions League. Another positive for Spurs because they're not in the Champions League all that often. Again, they should be, and they have been in the past, but a few years without it. Back in it this year. They've signed Kudus, who looks like a really good signing for them. I've had a few good years at West Ham, and you would expect him to sort of kick on now. He's at a bigger club, more attacking club, I would say, than West Ham, who a lot of the time was sort of not the aggressor in the game. when they're playing a big team, especially. So that's a good signing. I'm sure they've got more business to do as well. But yes, Thomas Frank, top manager, really good manager, really clever manager, brave manager, not afraid to change his style mid-game, game to game. It'll be interesting to see how he translates to, Brentford. They're more of a team who can afford to be the low block team in a game, the team that's not pushing the issue. At Spurs, that's kind of different. Spurs are expected to be on the ball, push the other team back, be the attacking side. So can Thomas Frank sort of implement his way of playing on that style, and can the two, connect and work together to be successful? I think probably have, well, it's not probably, I think they'll definitely have a better season than they did last year in the league. They finished, was it 17th last year in the league? So if they finish worse, then they're relegated. But I think they'll be right back up there, Europa League spots this year with Thomas Frank. He's just a good manager, so definitely positive on that if you're a Spurs fan. And we'll go to our last two. So we have West Ham first. Another really tricky one. This one, West Ham haven't done a lot. There's not a lot positive going on there. They've sold Kudus, obviously, and they've only signed one player. But I think he's the positive for West Ham. Called Diouf. He's a left back. They signed him from Slavia Prague. And I've seen him before. I've watched him in Europe a couple of times, and he's actually pretty exciting fullback in my opinion. I think he's really athletic, not afraid of a tackle. Like certainly a good young player that could definitely kick on at West Ham. So I think he's a good left back. I don't want to put it out there and say right now that he's going to be amazing, but you've got to be positive about something, and I'd be positive about Diouf as the new signing for West Ham. And something else I picked out when I was looking at the research for this video, they've released Zuma at the end of his contract, and that's positive because he kicks cats. So well done to West Ham for finally being rid of him. And last but not least, we have Wolves. Again, Wolves was quite tricky. So if you are a Wolves fan and you did skip to this point in the video, like I said at the start, thank you for at least watching this portion. But what I've got to say about you is tricky. But what I'll say is you signed John Arias from Flamengo, and I watched him in the Club World Cup, and he looked fun. He looked like a fun player. He was taking shots from 500 yards out. His corners were really good. He looks like he might be fun. So if you did make it to here and you're hearing about John Arias, then let me know in the comments if you think John Arias is fun as well. Attacking player. So I think maybe a Cunha replacement is the idea. But people are worried about Wolves losing Cunha and Aït-Nouri and etc. So they need more maybe, but for now we'll say John Arias looks fun. And that's it. It's every Premier League club. That's a positive thing about all of them. Some of them more positive than others. Sorry, Fulham. But I hope that was entertaining at least, and you went away from this. If you support any club here and you're thinking, yeah, I'm a bit more positive about my club this season, maybe after this, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're thinking, wow, that was the only positive thing you could say about my team. It's not looking good. Again, Fulham, West Ham, Wolves, that kind of thing. It's not looking great at the minute. But yes, I will just very, very quickly talk about the Community Shield coming up on Sunday. So the next time you'll see me will be the ratings and review for that match on the weekend. It's on Sunday, so we're looking forward to that. 3 o'clock. The curtain raiser, obviously Liverpool against Crystal Palace. So hoping we can get the win there. Lift another Community Shield trophy. Won't be easy, of course. People underestimating Palace, but like I said, they still have their top players at the minute. So certainly a good side, and they'll be set up well under Glasner, of course, to compete. They beat City, obviously, last season, so managed to win the FA Cup, and no reason why they couldn't beat Liverpool in the Community Shield. But I hope that doesn't happen. make sure it doesn't, we'll have to look after Eze. Sarr as well, who I hate. I hate that guy so much. He's on my list of just random players that I hate. I hate him, honestly. So hopefully he doesn't score against us. And Eze as well, we've got to keep him quiet. But from a Liverpool point of view, it's going to be really exciting to watch us in, I want to say, a competitive game. I mean, technically it's a friendly, I guess, but it is competitive. It is the curtain raiser of the new season. So really excited to see how we line up. The system we play, will it be similar to the ones we've been seeing in pre-season with the three defenders with the two midfielders in front, and then sort of the rest line up as a 5-3-2-5 that we've been seeing? Will it be a bit more conservative now that it's a real sort of game with actual, I don't want to say points on the line, but a trophy on the line, with some meaning to the game rather than just a friendly to experiment? We're looking forward to seeing our new away kit, how it looks on the players, because it looks like we're going to be in the away kit and Palace in the home kit. So we'll see it. We'll see it all on Sunday. I'll give you a quick predicted 11 from Liverpool. I think we'll line up with a it'll be Alisson maybe in the goal. He is back, so I think he'll play. And then I think we'll have Frimpong, Konate, Van Dijk, Kirkez, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, Wirtz, Salah, Ekitike, Gakpo. So the same team that started against Bilbao in the second game, except Alisson in the net. I think that's what we'll do. It might even be Mamardashvili again, but I think that's what we'll do. So really excited to see that team and see, how everybody links up. Can we gel a bit more? Can we score some goals again? How will Slot have us playing? But this video is not about Liverpool. It was about every single team. So I hope you're going to enjoy the Community Shield on the weekend, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you did, like I said, please do drop a like. It takes a second. Just drop a like on the video. Helps reach other people and they can watch as well. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here as well. Would really, really appreciate that. Drop a comment, let me know if you enjoyed. And until this Community Shield is over and we'll have a look at how that game went together. Yeah, that's me, guys. So until then, speak to you all soon.